Now listen closely. What if you took a bunch of people who have lived above 100 and you checked their blood biomarkers and you related these biomarkers to people who have disease or people in general who didn't or haven't lived above 100? You'd be able to identify the biomarkers that lead to human health and human longevity. Because remember, the longer you live, the more energy efficient your body has been. And the more energy efficient your body has been, the more healthy you've been. That's basically what health is. Your cells being very strong and very energy efficient at the same time. Anything that's unhealthy will disturb this. Well, what I just described is exactly what this study did. They took the blood work of a bunch of centenarians and they compared it to the blood work of people who didn't or haven't lived to 100. And what they found is that the centenarian total cholesterol is much higher. Okay? And total cholesterol is HDL plus LDL. And so automatically, if you have a high total cholesterol, you're going to have a high LDL because HDL doesn't constitute a large part of the total cholesterol. Well, you've heard that cholesterol is bad, and here we've got direct evidence that higher cholesterol levels lead to human beings living longer. So I'm presenting this to you so that you rethink, so that you might realize that, okay, there's something wrong within the system that we currently have, and the rest of the video is here for you to educate yourself on cholesterol. I'm showing you this so that you might learn, so that in the future you can protect your family members, so that you can protect yourself, so that you can lessen the suffering in the world in the name of health. And again, all you need is this video. You don't need anything else, but it would be very fun if you would do more research than just this video. If you were to click on the links I have down below and you would check the studies that I've cited. If we understand how it was concluded that cholesterol and saturated fat are dangerous, then we might understand where we should head right now in the video. So here's the thing. The craze began in 1965 when industry-sponsored research came out saying that cholesterol and saturated fat cause heart disease. This research was sponsored by the sugar industry, and it is widely known that this research is extremely faulty. And so the entire craze came from the sugar industry. And I learned this from Anthony Chaffee. God bless him. He has videos on this too. In the Journal of the American Medical Association, there's a study showing that they've got inside findings, inside evidence, showing that this is the exact thing that happened. So this is not something that me and Chaffee are pulling out of our asses. No. There is scientific evidence showing that this is how cholesterol was vilified in 1965 and onward. Do you realize what this means? This means that all the research that's been done on cholesterol, all the doctor recommendations, all the statins, all the cholesterol drugs, all the cholesterol diet recommendations, all the dietary guidelines all across the world began and have their basis in faulty research. You know why the entire world has been tricked so easily? Because you've always been taught that you're too stupid. You've been taught that since this person went to medical school and you didn't, you're wrong. When in fact doctors do get things wrong. And that's why we always have new research coming out. So that means that you can always be right about something and the doctor can always be wrong about something. And if you've got very good evidence to suggest that you're right about cholesterol, then you should be listening to yourself instead of the doctor. And that's exactly why I need to teach you about cholesterol. I need you to know what cholesterol does in the body. I want you to understand what HDL does. I want you to understand what LDL does and why they're not actually cholesterol. I need you to understand triglycerides, and I need you to understand what kind of blood markers you should be looking for. If you're going to understand the cholesterol debate, you can't just be looking at studies. You have to look at what cholesterol is. And this is cholesterol. That's how it looks. It's primarily present in the cell membrane. And so, as you might understand, it's present in every single cell in your entire body. And that's everything I have to say, really. It is present in every single cell in your entire body. The way I want you to think about this is, how many cells are you replacing every day? How many cells are you killing every day? You know, just by living, just by waving my hands like this, I need to replace skin cells. Just by walking, I need to replace a bunch of cells inside of my foot. By working out, how many muscle cells am I destroying? Do you know how many cells you replace each day? So obviously the cholesterol demands that your body has are immense. Because to replace cells, which is a very, very important and basic activity for survival and the maintenance of a body, you need cholesterol. So here's the thing. It can't be something bad. If something is present within your body that alters the cholesterol in such a way that it isn't like this anymore, then yes, it might become something damaging, but it's not cholesterol anymore. It's some variation of the cholesterol molecule. But all in all, it can't be dangerous. Even the dietary cholesterol can't be dangerous, because every single cell in your entire body contains cholesterol. And so if it were dangerous, then why is it present inside of you? Why is it an essential building block? It's just like anything else. It's just that it has been vilified. Now here's something I first heard from Dr. Peter Attia, which is completely mind-blowing, really. Dietary cholesterol is esterified, and that's just chemical jargon. That means that it's bound in a certain way to things. It's configured in a certain way. And because dietary cholesterol is esterified, or most of it at least, you can't really absorb it. That's the thing. A certain part of it isn't esterified, so you can absorb it. But if I'm correct about this, I believe that's around 10%. And the thing is, if your body senses that it has enough cholesterol, you'll just shit out the cholesterol that it didn't need, really. So your body is only going to absorb the amount of cholesterol that it wants. Alright? And it's going to shit out most of it. This doesn't mean that the dietary cholesterol that you do consume is unnecessary or unimportant. You're still getting dietary cholesterol when you eat dietary cholesterol to some degree. But this just means that the fact that people think that dietary cholesterol causes disease is stupid, because it doesn't really work in the way you think. It's not absorbed in the way you think. Your body only takes what it really, really wants, and it leaves out the rest. Now let us expose a big fat lie in the medical industry. Let's just destroy the entire cholesterol industry with one single sentence. HDL and LDL are not cholesterol. Okay, and what are HDL and LDL? HDL is high density lipoprotein. It's what they call the good cholesterol. LDL is low density lipoprotein, what they call bad cholesterol. So when you have high levels of LDL, they say that's bad. And when you have high levels of HDL, they say that that's good. And they call this cholesterol. This might just be vocabulary, and the medical industry might, actually understand what's going on, but the public doesn't. And what do I mean by this? What I mean is that HDL carries cholesterol, and LDL carries cholesterol. These are buses that transport cholesterol. They are not cholesterol. HDL and LDL are not cholesterol. They carry fat. They carry nutrients around. And cholesterol is a nutrient, of course, so that's why they're carrying cholesterol. They're not cholesterol. They're proteins. They're lipoproteins, as the name suggests. Why is there HDL and why is there LDL? HDL carries fat and nutrients from the cells to the liver, and the liver also contains cells, but again, we need to sort of describe these things. So it carries nutrients from the cells to the liver, very important. LDL carries nutrients from the liver and other places to the cells. But there's a logical problem here, and it is that although HDL and LDL carry lipids, nutrients that are fat soluble, across the blood in their little lipoprotein thingy, that doesn't mean that LDL, or high levels of LDL that is, isn't something bad. It might be bad. Well, let's look at if this is the case or not. So in this study, you've got mortality risk on the y-axis, and you've got levels of LDL on the x-axis. And as you can see, at 200 milligrams per deciliter, which is considered extremely high by any doctor, they'd throw a statin in your face immediately. You can see that the mortality risk is basically not there. While if you look at the cholesterol levels that vegans usually recommend, so somewhere around 60, 70, lower than 70 really, it goes up drastically. In case you don't understand the graph, 1 means that you don't really have a risk of developing anything, and you don't have any protective effect either. You're completely neutral. If you get closer to 0, that means you have a protective effect. If you go above 1, that means that the mortality risk increases. Okay, so below 1, mortality risk decreases. 1, there's no difference. Above 1, the mortality risk increases. Okay, and these are the cholesterol levels. And for reference, and this is something that needs to be researched, I have an LDL level of 197. Paul Saladino has an LDL level of 170, around that point. Kem Berry has an LDL level of 250, and I'm talking about milligrams per deciliter, of course. And so anyone who eats a lot of animal products is going to have a high LDL. Is that a bad thing? No, it just means that you have a bunch of particles in your blood that are able to transport fat-soluble nutrients from the liver to the cells. That is all it means. And so, if you ask me, it should be high. Why shouldn't it be high? HDL should be high, LDL should be high. Because then you can transport more things to the liver and from the liver. You just have a stronger body. You just have a system that's more robust than other people who have low cholesterol levels. And as we can see, the higher the cholesterol levels, the better. And again, look at the old people. The old people lived longer when they had high cholesterol levels. Why is that? Because they have a better ability to create cells. Oh, and by the way, if this video gets 100 likes, I'll release my blood work, because I did a blood test in August. Okay, if LDL is alright, what blood lipid panel markers should you be looking for? Because obviously, if you're a healthy person, and you're metabolically healthy, and your blood values are very nice, and your LDL is really high, then there's no problem whatsoever, because you already understand what LDL is. It doesn't cause any damage, it's just the bus that transports cholesterol and other fat-soluble nutrients from the liver to the cells. There's nothing wrong with that. Without LDL, you would die. With low LDL levels, you're unhealthy. With high LDL levels, there's no problem whatsoever. And there's a genetic factor too. But anyway, what should you be looking for? If you have low HDL levels and high triglycerides, you're at a risk for heart disease. That is unhealthy. There's something wrong if that's the case. If you have high HDL levels and low triglycerides, that's a very good thing. Alright, we've already talked about what HDL does. It takes nutrients from the cells to the liver. So as an example, if a cell dies and you've got fat-soluble nutrients in there, the HDL is going to come and transport it back to the liver so that it can be used for new cells. We haven't talked about triglycerides. What are they? So I want you to think about the letter E. You've got a straight line and then you've got 3 things sticking out. This is basically how a triglyceride looks like. So you've got 3 fatty acids that can sit on the triglyceride. So basically this is how fatty acids are composed inside of the body. Just so we're clear, the backbone together with the 3 fatty acids is the triglyceride. Okay, the entire thing is the triglyceride. Now I have a theory as to why high triglyceride levels are a bad thing. So usually if you have high triglyceride levels, you've got fat that isn't being utilized. Now why would the fat not be utilized? Well, if you look at people with high triglyceride levels, they're not eating the fat that me and you are eating. We're eating high quality grass-fed raw butter, as an example. We're drinking raw dairy. We're eating very high quality meat. All of these foods that I just listed have very high quality fatty acids that are very, very good for the body. These people with heart disease and unhealthiness in general, with high triglycerides, they're not eating the type of fat that we recommend that they eat, that humans should eat really. They're eating trans fats and vegetable oils, and vegetable oils are an industrial byproduct really. It's something that was used for industrial lubrication and now it's used for human consumption because humans don't know any better and they've been tricked. Again, I've got many resources on this. Now here's the thing. The body can recognize that these fats shouldn't be utilized and that they're toxic. So what does it do? It tries to get rid of them. And so naturally it's in a constant state of wanting to get rid of these fats because these people are constantly eating junk food. So what is going to happen? Well, these fatty acids are going to be configured in the triglyceride manner and they're going to be eliminated somehow. And so in the process of them being eliminated, you're going to find that this person has really high triglycerides. And so it's not just about the triglyceride levels. It's all about, okay, but what are the fatty acids that this triglyceride is composed of? And of course, generally speaking, even if you're eating very good food and your triglycerides are high, you should be thinking about that because your triglycerides should be low. If you have high triglycerides, that means that you're not really utilizing fat in a good manner. When you do a blood test, you're not only getting a blood lipid panel, hopefully. You're getting many things. You're getting markers that relate to your metabolic health, your liver, your kidneys, and this and that. Many things, really. And so the question is, what should you be looking at if you want to assess your risk for heart disease? Again, when it comes to the blood lipid panel, high HDL, low triglycerides. That's what you want. When it comes to your liver enzymes, you just want them to be where they should be. And you want your GGT to be as low as possible. Again, the lower your GGT is, the more likely you are to be a centenarian. And if you're more likely to be a centenarian, you're probably going to feel much better throughout your life. There's also something called hs-CRP, or highly sensitive C-reactive protein. Ideally, you want that to be below 1. It is a marker of inflammation that's pretty good. If it's constantly elevated, you have a problem and you're more likely to develop heart disease and this and that. If it's low, great. It should be low. Ideally, it should be low, unless you've worked out or you've done something stressful. But when you take a blood test, generally you're calm. The other things are related to your blood sugar, so your HbA1c, or basically sugar bound to hemoglobin. That's a bad thing because that's a measurement of glycation. HbA1c is a measurement of glycation, really. How much sugar has destroyed your cells, but you're only looking at the blood to be more specific. And then you've also got fasting blood sugar, but more importantly, fasting insulin. You want a low fasting insulin because if you have a high fasting insulin, you're probably metabolically unhealthy. And if you're metabolically unhealthy, that's the most important thing for developing heart disease. If you want to not develop heart disease, you need to be metabolically healthy. The last thing I'll say about blood tests, biomarkers, whatever it might be, is that you shouldn't focus on certain things. You should focus on health in general if you want good values. So what I'm talking about is making sure that everything when it comes to health is optimized, that you haven't overlooked anything. And if you don't want to overlook anything, watch this video over here. If you really think about it, when it comes to nutrients and cholesterol in general, these are a byproduct of human science. These are names that we've given these things, and we've tried to describe them in a certain way based on the tools we have. In reality, indigenous people don't have these concepts. Because yes, these are concepts. You have to realize that cholesterol is a concept. A human being can't perceive cholesterol. You can't think of fat as fat unless you have a word for fat. The indigenous people don't really separate between these things, or some might do, but generally speaking they don't. They don't see fat in the way we do, in the way modern human beings do. They don't see cholesterol in the way modern human beings do. We've applied concepts to these things that link them to disease, and this can have consequences, because if you eat something and you're really scared of it killing you, then obviously you're going to digest the meal in a bad manner because you're stressed. You're automatically going to create stress. You're not going to utilize the meal in an efficient manner. You utilize the meal in the best manner when you're in the rest and digest state, but most human beings aren't in this state because they're constantly stressed, because of mental problems, because of health problems, and these two go together, of course. Remember, when it comes to me and you, we can use these concepts to benefit ourselves and others because we know how to use them. But what's happened in modern society is that this concept of cholesterol, again, we can't perceive cholesterol in any way unless we think about it, really. The way society perceives cholesterol has been negative from a health perspective because now they fear things that contain cholesterol. And again, all animals contain cholesterol. It's a basic building block. And so as you can see, this has caused a regression. We're not using it as a tool. But me and you can use it as a tool. We can identify foods that contain cholesterol and then we can eat them. Now you understand cholesterol. Now you understand that this entire debate that's been going on for many years is very stupid because LDL and HDL perform their functions. Cholesterol is a building block. What actually causes problems is unhealthiness, not taking care of the body, being polluted, eating things that you're not supposed to eat. That's what creates heart disease and all of these metabolic problems, not cholesterol-rich foods. Cholesterol-rich foods are the most nutrient-rich foods and they're absolutely essential for human beings. We've eaten them throughout our history. As I always say, if you're very confused about nutrition, there's always the 10 dietary rules. It's a PDF that I wrote for those who might be confused about nutrition, those who might get hooked on carnivore or fruitarianism and not quite understand nutrition on a little bit of a deeper level that is more related to principles and not ideologies. So what we've got right now is ideologies. We want principles, and in this you get 10 very good solid nutrition principles that are the basis of anyone's nutritional understanding, anyone who knows what they're doing from a nutritional perspective. If you really like the way I write in the 10 dietary rules, and the 10 dietary rules, if I didn't mention, is completely free, by the way. If you like the way I write, then you can get the 6 Health Commandments. It's a more comprehensive book. It's a book, not just a PDF. It's an ebook. And it talks about what health actually is. It gives you deep understanding of health. And if you're interested in that, then you can get it. Again, this is a resource for you. With that said, gonna achieve excellent health. I know you can do it.